It's really interesting.
I wish we had enough interest across the city to have districts.
Mhm.
I really do. But
Well, you know, maybe one day we'll get big enough.
It's really interesting.
But I agree.
it fits so. Some legal fits or something, you know, things that. Master,
Oh,
about districts,
oh,
I never understood that.
I think the challenge for us is whatever it is. If nobody
No,
runs,
no, we started on school board.
you have
We had to beg
there's-
them.
you have to
We
beg.
had a big,
And so
had to
you-
just serve.
And when you
No, it
have,
isn't good.
and when you have 3 people in another district that are like really solid.
Well, it might make some people feel a little better, but it's not really the same.
Not in the size. Now, the bigger you have, a larger percentage of something.
But when we have 4 people running and you only get 300 votes
And then that's not much.
and divide by 4,
Yeah.
you know, you're talking about 50 people. And in some of these, if you really looked at the areas, we could probably get that. Is now where the votes are coming from.
Well, that's lighting.
Yeah. Okay, have you seen the movie Vengeance?
I don't think I have.
Okay, so BJ Novak is the intern guy from the TV show The Office.
Yeah.
Like the,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the one who like dated the Indian girl and then he so he wrote it and I think maybe directed it.
Oh, wow.
And it's West Texas. So in Sweetwater, that like one of the main characters is a Whataburger in Sweetwater.
Oh, really?
And so it's like they're like, you want to go to Whataburger? He's like, why Whataburger? It's like, why not? It's like, isn't there other things? Why do you like Whataburger? Because it's there. He's like, no. It's like, what? Why do you like Whataburger? Well, because it's there. It's like, okay, you got a Burger King, you got a McDonald's, you got a Whataburger, you got something. Now, why would you pick Whataburger? They look at each other. Because it's there. It's hilarious. It's just so Texan and it's very much West Texas. And so they go to a rodeo.
Distinct, yeah,
What's the name of it?
Vengeance.
any rattlesnake roundups if they're in Sweden.
Yeah. So he goes to a rodeo with them and the rodeo announcer, they get into the whole rodeo announcing humor.
Got
And
it.
he asks, all the fans, the University of Texas, stand up. And he goes, "Woo." And he's the only one.
Only
He
one
looks
in the
around
whole
and sits there.
race.
And then he's like, all those are fans of Texas Tech. And everybody's like, what? And it goes crazy. Anyway, he's looking awkwardly at him. So it's very
Texas.
It's very Texas.
Probably in West Texas is even a different.
And so they get him, since he's the only one that stands up. The rodeo clown gets him to come out on the dirt, and he's standing there, and they get the Texas Tech fan out there. Like, so why do you like the University of Texas? It's like, "Oh, it's in Austin." It's like, no, really. It's like, they've got a great film program. And I mean, bless some people that are in there and they're like, what?
Yeah.
And they looked at the other guy. So why do you like Texas Tech? Quarterback Patrick Mahomes. Whoa! Anyway, the whole movie's like that. It's just,
They don't really know.
so
Tis the season for a good movie.
it is, especially when it's raining.
I know.
Like it is.
Is this being shown at the theater or is it on Netflix?
It's already gone. It came through. It's kind of an independent.
Okay.
So
I didn't.
yeah, I mean, you hear about Martha, you hear about
That's one.
Whataburger, you got,
Yeah.
you go for the police, to the sheriff, to the highway department, and you just get all this just inside Texas kind of humor.
I'll be good to watch.
So I watched it on the flight back from Germany on Friday.
Maybe so.
11 hours sitting in one spot. I get antsy.
Good afternoon, everyone.
That's long.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pardon me. Welcome to the regular Tuesday, November 22, 2022 meeting of the Belton City Council. Appreciate your attendance this afternoon. Today, the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag will be led by Councilmember Stephanie O'Banion. The Pledge of Allegiance to the Texas flag will be led by City Manager Sam Lissy, and the invocation will be given by Councilmember Dan Kirkland.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas.
I pledge this flag. Pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Father, we come before you this evening. You know our hearts, and you know our minds. And Father, we ask that all we say and do, we would remember that you've given us the opportunity to serve our neighbors in our community. And so, Father, we ask for your wisdom. We ask for your rest and your peace. And ask, Father, that this world would line up with you. And ask also, Lord, that everything we say and do tonight would honor you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Dan. Call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is public comments, and I see we have one signed up for tonight. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may register to do so prior to the meeting and speak during this item. Forms are located outside the room. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Also, remember that while the council appreciates hearing your comments, state law prohibits them from engaging in discussion other than providing a statement of specific factual information or reciting existing city policy or taking action other than directing staff to place the matter on the future agenda. So at this time, we have one person signed up. Mr. Finley, if you'd come up and state your name and address, please, sir.
Good evening. I'm very thankful to be here this evening in the season of Thanksgiving. My name is Troy Finley. My wife and I own the Crooked Garage at 702 South Pearl Street. My family relocated to Belton in 2018 in search of our forever home. We lived in Lubbock, Texas for 20 years. In 2014, my wife Paula's mother, June, was diagnosed with terminal cancer in Scottsdale, Arizona, Paula's hometown. God blessed us with the ability to relocate to Arizona and spend the last few years of June's life with her. When June passed, my family wanted to move back to the great state of Texas. After prayerful consideration, we chose Belton. In February of 2019, we found our forever home located at 702 South Pearl Street, an historic home full of African-American history beginning in the 1920s. Paula fell in love with the house, and I bought it for her that same day. In our journey to turn the house into our forever home, we've endured fraud, survived a worldwide pandemic while being left homeless, and have been tread on by the city of Belton, Texas. I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city bids against its own citizens at public tax sales, the very citizens they claim to serve. David, how would you like it if the city was bidding against you or your son? Why would you let that happen? Sam, why would you let that happen? Chief Gene Ellis, why would you condone that? Why would y'all bid against a citizen? I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city blames clerical errors for the destruction of historic homes. I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city blames clerical errors for the issuance of false documents. I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city allows unsafe structures to be built. I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city allows structures to be built without approved permits. Why would y'all let Tommy Gage and Gage Construction go down there and build that crooked piece of crap on my property? Why would the city of Belton come out and pass inspections when there's not even a permit? There's not even a permit. I no longer choose to be a part of a community where the city tailors to crooked contractors and continuously allows them to take advantage of citizens. Today, I'm taking a stand not just for my family, but to set a precedence for all citizens in Belton, Texas. It's time for change. It is time for change. I no longer choose to be a part of a community that the city conducts business on my behalf without my knowledge, without my consent. And the result of that business that was conducted was false documents issued that could be used to file a lien against my property. My property. Gentlemen, madam, get ready because I'm coming. Change is coming to Belton, Texas. I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to do it the godly way. I came to each and every one of you and asked you, I begged you for help. The at-large council, that's exactly what it is, at-large, missing. Why would y'all allow this to happen to the citizens of Belton, Texas? Change is coming.
Thank you, Mr. Finley. Items 3 through 6 under this section are considered to be routine by the city council and may be enacted by one motion. Discussion is desired by the council. Any item may be removed from the consent agenda prior to voting at the request of any council member. Item 3 is to consider the minutes of the November 8th, 2022 city council meeting. Item 4 to consider appointments or reappointments to the following boards and commissions. Library Board of Directors, Janice Puska, Sandra Velo, and Ann Laughlin. Belton Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors, Brandon Bozon, Matt Wood. Bell County Tax Appraisal District Board of Directors, Joe Shepherd. Item 5 to consider an ordinance amending section 8 through 71 and section 8 through 872 of the City of Belton fee and rate schedule related to solid waste collection rates for 2023. Item 6 to consider authorizing the purchase of the following items from Craftsman through the board purchasing cooperative. And that would be A, splash pad features for the Harris Community Park splash pad, and B, exercise equipment for the Nolan Creek Hike and Bike Trail. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve items 3 through 6 on the consent agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve those items. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Item 7, to hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural to single family 1 district for approximately 2.2 acres located at 7102 Longbow, west of Simmons Road. Mrs. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. I hope you guys are all well. Okay, the property in question is located off of Longbow Road, which is just west of Simmons Road. Here is, apologize. Here is Simmons Road and here is Longbow, and the property is just west of the intersection. Here's a look at the current property. Is currently vacant. Property is zoned agricultural. This area was annexed in 2009 and assigned to agricultural zoning district. The applicant recently purchased this property and intends to construct a single-family detached home at this location. The minimum lot size for the agricultural zoning district is 3 acres. The current property is a little over 2 acres, and the applicant is asking for a zoning change to meet the minimum lot size for this proposed development. For land use, this would allow for the requested detached single-family home. Again, this subject lot is approximately 2.2 acres and exceeds the minimum requirement for the single-family 1 zoning district. A building permit is required to ensure that all setbacks are in compliance. A subdivision plat is currently not required as the applicant does not intend to subdivide the property into separate lots. There are no city water, wastewater services in this area. And the applicant, this property was separately owned and faces a dedicated roadway prior to the annexation, so a plat is not required. Again, water and wastewater are not available. City water, wastewater is not available at this lot. The applicant plans to install a septic system, which needs to be approved by Bell County Health Department. Domestic water services will be provided by Dog Ridge Water Service. Fire protection would be addressed with the permitting process. The future land use map identified this area for residential uses. Notices were provided to property owners within 200 feet of the property, and we received 2 letters, one for support and one for opposition for the proposed zoning change. The Planning and Zoning Commission, heard this item at their meeting on November 15th and unanimously recommended approval of the zoning change to single family 1. The use of the property shall conform to the requirements of single family 1 district. An approval letter from Dog Ridge Water Service Corporation is required for domestic water service. Approval from Bell County Health Department is required for the on-site sewage facility. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have on this zoning change.
Thank you, Tina. This time we'll open the public hearing. Does anyone in the audience wish to speak for or against the zoning change? Yes, sir. If you would state your name and address for us, please, sir.
I'm Roy Zock. I live at 3496 Simmons. We have this piece of property that we are selling to Jimmy Norman. And we're trying to stay in conjunction with what's around us. We currently have ours listed as ag land because we have 3.5 acres. We sold off a portion of our property on the north side on Simmons Road, and we left it as ag status also. The gentleman that bought it is planning on a single family home the same way. And we went through all the requirements by the codes of the city in order to guarantee him to be able to build his house. So we're doing the same thing with Jimmy. And I don't foresee a problem with single family because of the lots that are already out there. I know that we're starting out in a new territory basically for Belton. And there'll probably be a lot of requests coming in the future for that area as it develops. But we're trying to keep in compliance with what we think is going to be developed in that area.
Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Appreciate those comments. Anyone else wish to speak for or against that? If not, we'll close the public hearing on item 7 and open it up for council deliberation. Any questions or comments?
Seems like sensible development, of single family on 2 acres of septic and regional water. The only thing I was confused about, there was one opposition that I didn't really understand. Keeping it ag or something like that, residential ag. I just wasn't sure what the worry was.
Correct. I saw that too, and I just thought that they probably thought it wasn't going to be single family home. They probably thought it was more density. I wasn't sure what the applicant was referring to.
No, I think it's a great area, smart development, and nice to have 2 acres out there with septic and water.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
I move we approve item Z 2240 as presented this evening.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve that item number 7. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Good luck on your,
It's a good rating.
appreciate y'all coming tonight.
It's a great.
Item 8 is to hold a public hearing to consider a zoning change from neighborhood services to retail on approximately 0.406 acres located at 1404 North Main Street. Tina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant is not here tonight. He had other family obligations for Thanksgiving, so he apologized for not being here. This property is located off of North Main Street, and it is just north of West 14th Avenue and just south of the cemetery. This property is currently this property is developed with a commercial building on there with adequate parking. The property is currently zoned neighborhood services. The surrounding zoning include retail, multiple family for condos in the rear, and of course an SUP for the cemetery, and across the street is single family 1 residential. And the property owner submitted the zoning change to allow for additional permitted uses at the property. The requested retail district will permit other uses, including retail, restaurants, automotive repair services. When he first applied for the permits, he was looking at an automotive repair place, but now I believe they have moved on to a boutique retail location. The subject lot meets the subject requirements for the retail district. It's over 17,000 square feet, and the minimum requirement for retail is 7,000. Future expansion of the existing building will need to comply with the retail area requirements and setback The future land use map identified this area for commercial use. Notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet of the property. We received 2 letters of support for this zoning change. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on November 15th and recommended approval of the zoning change. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you. This has been multiple things in the past. It was Blue Crest Pool and Costa Pool and a couple of things since then.
My
So it's-
grandmother's flower shop,
you're,
Ann's House Flowers.
oh, that,
In the day.
that is back in the day. I wish we still had that.
Yeah, me too.
We still had that. At this time, we'll open the public hearing. If anyone wishes to speak for or against this item. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for questions or consideration.
So it's for boutique automotive, right? Is that what, or it's not? It's not, and I'm trying to narrow in on how they're gonna use it.
Correct. It's going to be a clothing boutique from what the last application that I seen. So I'm not quite sure yet. He's just, again, looking for tenants and just looking for an increase permitted uses in the building.
Okay,
What,
okay.
which zoning is more restrictive, neighborhood service or retail?
Neighborhood services, retail is a little bit more permissible.
So I was wondering why we're changing it, if it's gonna be similar to what was in there before. Expanded,
They're
This-
not planning on doing any expansion. It's just,
expanded service.
So it's currently neighborhood services.
correct.
Which would allow for what they're planning on putting in there, to his point. But I think the reason we're bumping it is because they could go to an automotive. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm confused.
Yeah.
So,
I would like to caution, neighborhood services allows for limited retail. I think that's where it's been confused in the past. He thought retail was a permitted use in there, and it's not. Neighborhood services is supposed to be, again, for different uses, small bakeries. Retail itself is not permitted in
Gotcha.
neighborhood services.
okay.
Any other questions or comments by council?
No.
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 8. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 8. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the item passes unanimously. Thank you, Tina. Item 9 was listed as a public hearing, so I need to go ahead and read the item even though it's been withdrawn. Hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from single family 3 district to planned development, single family 3 on approximately 6.226 acres in a Connell subdivision located at the northwest intersection of South Connell Street and Huey Drive. And as I said, this item has been withdrawn. Item 10 also was to hold a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agricultural to planned development, commercial 2 and multifamily district to on approximately 41.64 acres located at 703 West Loop 121 at the intersection of West Loop 121 and Southwest Parkway as submitted by the applicant Highside Real Estate, and this item has also been withdrawn. Item number 11, to consider a final plat of Three Creeks Phase X, Phase 10, comprising 72.67 acres located generally south of Interstate 14 and east of FM 1670 on the south side of Three Creeks Boulevard near the intersection of FM 1670 in Belton's extraterritorial jurisdiction. And Ms. Moore, once again.
Thank you, Mr. Fair. Again, as stated, this property is south of Interstate 14 and on the east side of FM 1670 and on the south side of Three Creeks Boulevard. What is being proposed is 72.67 acres for single family home residential. 287 lots, 7 blocks, 4 tracks for green space. This little cutoff here will be shown on the second page, which is just an inclusion of that cul-de-sac. The lot size in this development conforms to the requirements of the development agreement in place for the Three Creeks subdivision. Requires lots to be a minimum of 50 feet wide with a depth of 100. The lots in here are 50 by 120. Water in this area lies within both the city of Belton and Dog Ridge Water Service Corporation. CCN. Dogridge has provided a letter saying that they can provide services. A 6-inch diameter line is proposed throughout the subdivision. A variance is requested for the fire flow standards of 1,000 gallons per minute. Future upgrades to the Dogridge system will bring the fire flow to current standards. Hydrants have been located at adequate locations in this subdivision and meets our standards. Here is a map that shows which properties will be served by City of Belton versus Dogridge. The blue area is Dogridge, and approximately 34 lots in the pink will be served by the City of Belton. Sewer in this phase will connect to the City of Belton wastewater service. A 6-inch diameter line is proposed. Access, all the streets in this phase will connect to existing streets, and they will connect to the roundabout on Three Creek Boulevards. The 3 points of access is satisfied with the internal connections. Streets in this phase are all local streets, and they will be constructed with 50 foot of right of way, 31 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. A note has been added on the plat to prohibit access to Three Creeks for the lots that back up to Three Creeks. Additionally, because they're all local streets, no sidewalks are required. Drainage calculations has been reviewed with the construction plans for this phase. Drainage easements will be maintained by Bell County. For parkland dedication, this master plan has 127 acres of private parklands or trails and networks throughout. That is, again, part of the master plan and consistent with our requirements for parkland facilities. The parklands will be maintained by the HOA. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on November 15th and recommended approval of this item. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
And this is the last phase of the Three Creeks development, is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Sam, how many total homes would this give them if they develop all this?
Believe 1680, something like that is what's contemplated now. Originally 1500 was estimated, but as they've laid it out, it ended up being a little over that 1680, I believe.
Thank you.
Any
This is
Any comment on Dogridge water supply and an additional 270 homes plus additional commercial that was recently approved? And their letter that was included in our packet, said we've acknowledged it, or we have no comment in concurrence with the Three Creeks development. But I mean,
We do the water there, right?
no,
We don't do the water.
No,
We're
that's
sewer. No, what?
We have a small portion of it,
Oh, small portion.
and
of
then
it.
the
Gotcha.
Dogridge.
Dogridge.
has the
Yeah.
rest.
In this phase, a small portion, we have the rest of the homes in that neighborhood.
Right, all the rest going to the east is all
Yeah.
City Belton, right?
Gotcha.
I also want to say phase 9, there's a small portion in the City of Belton and the majority of it is also in Dogridge. So those 2 phases are the only 2 that's served by Dogridge.
Gotcha.
That was gonna be my same question. I'm not a master of public works and how these CCNs work, but I mean, if it's all new infrastructure, is it not an option to be all on one or the other? I mean, if they gave
No,
up rights
The
or.
CCN boundary is such that
Alright.
Dogridge has a portion. They want to serve that area. We have a portion. We did a little swap at one point in time. An exchange, it was about an even exchange, basically, that made sense in terms of neighborhood. But other than that, the 2 entities are serving the area based on existing CCNs.
And
There are, as Tina mentioned, some future upgrades coming to the Dogridge system that will take care of this not quite meeting the fire flow right now. That's coming in the future.
And we're sure
That's what I was-
that's coming.
that's what I was worried about. That they might not have fire protection.
We're sure that's coming within a reasonable amount of time to service the development. Just curious, that may not.
Schedule.
it's
Do we have-
scheduled. I don't have exact time frame when that will be occurring. Additionally, Dogridge has an engineer on staff to look at all new developments. And that letter is actually from the engineering company that reviewed it to make sure that it complied with their standards.
I know we've been through the 3 points of access with them before. I think it's still up in the air on one of the phases, but is the third access point, even though it connects to another point that goes into a previous phase, that I would still question 3 points of access, like that? that's all, but they should have to have 3 points. It's not 3 like easy way out, is it?
Correct. We also evaluate internal circulation and it makes sense internally. It would be nice if there was another quicker way off of,
Othello. Well,
Actually,
Othello
I
is the,
thinking
Long.
connection to Three Creeks, but we've been through that battle before and, yeah, didn't go so well.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, what we're all getting at is the pace of development in the mud has surpassed the pace of development of the infrastructure developed to supply them with adequate access to services and roadways. But we don't really have much choice at this point because it meets our.
Complies with the development agreement and it also complies with the subdivision ordinance, which is our main jurisdiction here. We provide generally the sewer and then the water in the area that's our CCN. And so they're compliant with all the standards that we regulate. We certainly paid a lot of attention to the Dog Ridge service area and what they can provide. Certainly those improvements coming down 1670 are coming, but we just can't tell you exactly when they'll be here.
Yeah, I think it lines up that with this one and then whatever the next mud does, I think in-city mud may be the best option going forward. I think we were against that because the cost to the homeowner. But there's a different cost other than just a financial cost that I think we'd probably need to consider going forward. That being said, I think we probably do have fire service there, fire hydrants, at least on one side of the street, if it's not on the others. So we should be able to help with that. So I'll make a motion that we approve this final plat for phase 10.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve this final plat at Three Creeks subdivision. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Pardon me, any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 12, to consider a final plat for Hidden Trails Phase 1 comprising 20.67 acres located east of Interstate 35, north of Loop 121 and south of Avenue R.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. As stated, this property, it is east of Interstate 35, north of Loop 121, connects to East Avenue W and East Avenue S. This plat proposes 20.67 acres, 101 lots, 4 blocks, and a drainage tract A. Water and sewer proposed in this area includes an 8-inch diameter water and wastewater line. Access in this area will be provided by East Avenue W. The applicant will be required to pave a small portion of roadway to connect to Miller Street. The second access would be provided by East Avenue S. And again, the applicant will be required to pave that missing portion of pavement. Eventually, the third access will be provided by Alita Street. All right, for streets and sidewalks, all of the streets proposed in this area are local, requires 50 feet of right of way, 31 feet of pavement with curb and gutter. The applicant will provide, again, all the connections to the existing roadways. Also a 50-foot right of way with 31 feet of pavement, curb and gutter. The applicant has agreed in this first phase to provide a temporary turnaround road at the northern end of Thames Drive. The applicant will provide a public access easement, which will be removed with installation of phase 2. Drainage plans have been reviewed for this plat and it meets our standards. All drainage facilities will be owned and maintained by the city. For parkland, the applicant has proposed a private or actually an alternative parkland compensation. They plan to install a 5-foot sidewalk that connects this development to the Tiger Splash Pad on East Avenue S. They're also proposing a similar walking path that will connect to the Miller Heights walking trail. Staff is supportive and this was part of the initial preliminary plat that was reviewed. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item at their meeting on the 15th and they recommended approval of the proposed plat conditional upon the temporary turnaround at the northern end of Thames Drive with a public access easement to terminate with phase 2 when phase 2 is installed. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have on this development.
Questions or comments? For Tina? I like the connectivity to the
Mhm.
trails. I think that was a nice touch. I think that's would love to see more of that when that's available at least. Any other questions or comments for?
Do we have to cut off Avenue T? I know it's extra and overkill, but I just hate blocking a existing right of way. I mean. That's just me though.
Well, I'd make the motion that we, I'll make the motion that we approve the final plat for Hidden Trails Phase 1.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the final plat for Hidden Trails Phase 1. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 13, to consider a final plat of Wendy's number 13981, compromising 0.862 acres located on the west side of North Main 317 and north of River Fair Boulevard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As stated, this property is located off of North Main, just north of River Fair Boulevard. The applicant is proposing a 1 lot, 1 block subdivision consisting of 0.862 acres. Just want to point out before I get on to the next screen, because of limited access off of North Main, the applicant does have a joint access easement with the adjacent property, and it's like approximately 31 feet from at the rear of the property. Water and sewer in this area, the applicant will extend an 8-inch water line to the northern property line to allow for future connection when the adjacent lot develops. The applicant plans to tie into an 8-inch sewer line that ends at the southern property line of this lot. Due to the topography and in the area, extending the sewer line is not practical at the time. Sewer services for the adjacent northern property will need to extend from the north. For South Main Street is approximately 165 feet of right of way. No additional right of way dedication or perimeter street improvements are required on Main Street due to limit access off of North Main. A 31-foot reciprocal access easement from River Fair Boulevard has been established. For sidewalk, sidewalk is required off of North Main, and that sidewalk is already existing. So no additional sidewalk is needed. Drainage, preliminary drainage plans were reviewed with this. A final drainage plan will be reviewed with the submittal of the site development plans for this property. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this at their meeting on November 15th and recommended approval of this final plat. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have.
Thank you very much. Anyone have questions or comments?
Did you mention limited access from Maine?
Correct. There is none for this property off of Main. So all of the access will be from that joint access easement.
So that's really from River Fair they would come in from.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so there is no requirement to have sidewalks on the other side? I'm sorry, on River Fair?
On River Fair, there is a
There already
requirement for
is.
sidewalk, and that is being constructed by Starbucks as their adjacent
Okay,
property.
so, yeah, that's. So if you could show that picture, because it looked like there was like a funky looking like sidewalk going 2 different direction, little plus looking thing. Down in the bottom left of that.
Is that a technical term?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to figure out what the dotted lines are and the cross access and what's going to be driveway and what's
Right.
potentially walking.
Okay, so the dotted lines are utility access easements as well.
Okay.
So water and sewer will also be in this area. But the development, the access, all of this would be the access.
Okay, so there's not going to be sidewalk in the back of the property. It's only in the front of the property.
Correct.
In the front and along the side, correct? Just not in the back.
That is correct.
Okay,
So down River Fair.
okay.
Sidewalk on 2 sides.
And we might want to think about that because we have a lot of students in that area and they're going to be coming in from the Sonic area and, there's just a lot of foot traffic there. Anyway, just if we have more stacked on, we might want to not put pedestrian where cars are going through drive-throughs. So may just want to work with the developer to, that on the other side of that drive, if they continue to go the same way of lining things up, we probably need some kind of green pedestrian space, because again, we're going to see a lot of, I mean, we see a lot of kids there. You have multifamily in the area on both sides now, and we have education. So just,
That's a good point. There's gonna be more development.
Speaking
in
about
that
the
area,
rear,
too.
the rear as opposed to the front.
well, I think both. I think both, because you're not going to have, you're not going to go past the restaurant to go on the sidewalk along Main Street,
True.
to then come back into the main. They're just going to cut through.
Mhm.
And so I think similar what where like Mod Pizza and all those places in Temple, they've got that, but I think they've got sidewalk area, because you've got in that area, and this potential, we could have hotel. We've already got lots of apartments. We've got Belton High School, middle school, Sparta. You just have Legacy Landing. Is that real? Yeah, it's just, anyway, just multi, what do they call it? Multimodal. So,
Well, and another concern, and it's nothing that we can do anything about really, and Wayne and I've had this conversation before, but the traffic right there is frightening.
yes.
It's hard to cross. I do it every day, and Wayne lives up Guthrie area, as we know. And that's just gonna add more to it. I don't have a solution, or I'm just bringing it up as a comment that I don't know what the future holds for options for traffic control, but you're taking your life in your own hands going across those 4 lanes of traffic.
It just one last question, the back street that will line up with Oakmark Drive.
It will, yes, sir.
Okay, and so all those medians will stay in place, and then the only other thing I wanted to make sure that we thought about is plenty of room for in and out. So we don't have like a Popeye situation where they're backed out on River Fair or just the flow. I hope somebody's thought about that. 'Cause it does get a little hectic over there with Popeye's chicken and very limited in and out access, and they sometimes are backed up on the access road.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is going too deep, because I don't think that Starbucks is sufficient for the number of cars that come in and out of Starbucks. So it's
I'm
gonna be
worried
a-
about that.
Yeah.
And then you put a Wendy's right next to it, and it's hard to get in and out anyway. And now there's just a little back street to come out, turn where there's a median and get on a very busy street.
The developer
Or
made
cut down Oakmark and try to weasel out some way through there. But I do worry about traffic flow.
yeah, I
And I
think
think we
that,
made a mistake at the Popeyes one. It still is just sometimes can be an absolute mess there with cars trying to get a chicken sandwich.
yeah, I think just internal circulation in that whole development, they're probably gonna need to get some things where they go past and come back in for that. So we'll just have to start planning that now.
Same thing with the existing Starbucks.
Yeah.
The traffic back up
Yeah,
there.
the back up there's
Headway, and was it Headway Circle, or no, what is that? Head
Head.
Street, Head Street and Second.
That's it.
So would the line from Starbucks, I'm not familiar with the Starbucks layout, is the to go, would that be 3 or 4 cars and then on to River Fair?
There's quite a few more than that. It's
Well,
from the rear.
So the development code, the design codes does require that there's at least 10
Oh, good.
vehicle spaces, but it also breaks it up from where the order box is versus where the windows is. So there is a requirement that's been reviewed, but is it adequate? It is Starbucks, and their lines are always notorious for backing up.
We don't have much room.
Excuse me?
There's very limited room.
There is
Oh.
very limited room, but they meet the adopted standards.
I'm all for it. I'm just gonna worry about it, the flow a little bit.
And
Well, I will say, we probably need to review those standards, parking spaces as well as drive. There's been, since the pandemic, there's been a significant shift towards people patiently waiting in a car line instead of going inside.
or waiting, anyway,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, but just everywhere. I mean,
Mhm.
Chick-fil-A or
Chick-fil-A.
Whataburger or whatever. It's like you see 8 people inside and 500 people in a car. So,
I agree.
I'll-
13, I don't know. I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 13.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve agenda item number 13. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item 13 passes unanimously. Thank you, Tina. Appreciate it. Item 14, to consider authorizing BEDC to enter into a development agreement with BCS Leasing and Texcrete Ready Mix. Cynthia Hernandez is going to present that for us.
Sorry, I sat all the way across the room. Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. Let's see, so tonight I will be talking to you about a development agreement that we are recommending with BCS Leasing and Texcrete Ready Mix. We have been working with Cross Plains Development on an industrial development that they're doing on Taylor's Valley Road. Part of that industrial development will be the location of Texcrete Ready Mix. They have 3 locations, one in Bryan, one in College Station, and one in Pinehurst. And they currently have customers in the Temple Belton area and hope to serve them and the growing market. And so they're looking at developing 6 acres on Taylor's Valley Road. It'll be a $1.4 million investment, and they will hire about 20 people. The location of that is at the edge of the city. So there's a 43-acre tract north of Taylor's Valley Road along the river. And so a small sliver of that, a little over 5 acres, currently sits in the Temple ETJ. And so Texcrete Ready Mix has come to us and asked for some assistance to help offset their cost of road, water, wastewater, and 3-phase electric. They will take the segment here, which currently sits in Temple's ETJ, and they will build a road. I'm sorry.
Circle the, I'm looking at this other screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Where's the ETJ?
So the ETJ starts here, and you can kind of see the red boundary there. Yes, so that's all Temple's ETJ. The road will begin at Taylor's Valley Road and will extend north, as will the water, wastewater, and 3-phase electric will be needed to serve that. The cost estimate is $802,000. Let me find it here.
292.
Yes, thank you. To extend those utilities. And so they've asked the EDC for assistance. The overall plan for the 43-acre tract, let me show you actually. This is a conceptual plan. And so essentially the concrete batch plant would develop on 6 acres, and the remaining property would be made available for industrial use. Currently, there is a proposed office warehouse development that could occur on 4 acres. They would be willing to work with us if we have a prospect that needs 5, 10, 20 acres, whatever's available. They don't need to hold all of that. They're willing to sell it. And so again, asking for the EDC to assist to help offset the costs of utilities. This is an attractive request for the EDC because it frees up property in a heavy industrial area. And we don't have that type of inventory within Belton. Everything is light industrial or much prettier. And so this serves a need that often we can't fill. We ran an economic impact analysis on this project. And as you know, concrete batch plants are sales tax generators. And so this company, based on what they're projecting for sales, plus their investment in job creation, the concrete batch plant alone does fulfill the economic impact analysis and requirements that we have when we offer assistance to companies, but there'll be some added benefits to that as well. So Okay, so the proposed development agreement,
Just real quick, while you have the map up,
sure.
the rest of that is in the city limits of
The
Belton?
rest
or-
is in the city limits. So just the sliver that we talked about and the area, a portion of the area where the concrete batch plant would locate, that's all in Temple's ETJ. The remaining property is in the city limits. And so part of our conversation with them is we would be willing to assist. As an EDC, we are able to offer assistance outside of the city limits. But for this project, we've asked for them to voluntarily annex into the city of Belton. And all conversations with the city of Temple right now are favorable for that.
Yeah, that's where I was going, is would they be willing, and before prior city manager and council said if there was an issue and we asked for a release, that they could give the release. Okay.
Yes,
That's where I was.
there have been some early conversations at the staff level, and I think Mr. Listy also has had some
Okay.
conversations with Temple as
Okay,
well.
awesome.
So, okay, so the development agreement, we developed a development agreement with the company and BCS Leasing. BCS Leasing is also Tex Creek, but they will own the property, and Tex Creek is the company that will be operating. And so we're asking for their commitment of $1.4 million in equipment and facility. This doesn't include all of the trucks. This is the fixed equipment on the ground. The creation of an estimated 20 employees. We ask that they extend the road, the water, the wastewater, and the three-phase electricity to the concrete plant. And we're asking them also to dedicate a 20-foot wide trail easement at this location, along with a 10-foot temporary construction easement for the trail. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. And then we're also asking them to voluntarily annex that segment of the property into the city of Belton.
Sorry for jumping ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Okay,
yeah.
yes. So the EDC's commitment is once they have completed construction of the improvements and it is annexed into the city of Belton, and the city signs off on, the road will be dedicated to the city of Belton. So once the city signs off on utility and road, and once the company receives their certificate of occupancy, we would then reimburse them for the improvements that were made. The assistance is performance-based. So if something happens and it's not in the city of Belton, that they did not perform. And so we're not in a situation where we have to use clawbacks. Also, the intent is for the remaining property, for the remaining, there's a 43-acre site. The intent is for the remaining property to develop. But in the event that in 5 years, nothing happens, we have asked to have the first right of refusal to purchase 20 acres from them at a rate of $1.25 per square foot. I think this is maybe a little less than what they're paying, maybe pretty consistent, but that's an amount that we were agreeable to. So it allows us to go in and purchase property if they're not able to do anything in 5 years with it. In running the economic impact analysis, typically where there's a rate of return that we're comfortable with, and this one yields an 18% rate of return, which is actually higher than what than our comfort zone. And we would see the taxpayers' dollars invested. There would be a 5.8-year payback period for that investment. Additional benefits of this project, in addition to the concrete batch plant locating here and the capital investment and the sales tax and all of those typical things that go into a project. Other benefits, as I mentioned earlier, it's the availability of real estate in a heavy industrial zoned area. A lot of times we get inquiries and we just don't have a place where we can send them without a whole lot of work going into rezoning for heavy industrial. It also facilitates the realignment of the Rails to Trails project needed for a local industry expansion. If you'll bear with me here on this wall. Okay, so here's the track. If you may recall, the city of Belton received a $2 million grant from EDA to extend utilities, and that the basis of that grant was for the expansion of ECS. Well, part of the many things that we're working through in that expansion, the Georgetown Railroad is immediately behind ECS. And so what needs to occur is access over the railroad for the company to access the Rockwool site. They're currently leasing that from Belton, and we've been in discussions with Temple, and Temple's agreeable to access if an alternative alignment can be secured. And so this project goes a long way towards satisfying those discussions that we're having. So that is an additional benefit of this project. And also with the inclusion or the volunteer annexation, it does grow our city limits by 5 acres. So the Board of Directors reviewed and approved the development agreement with BCS Leasing and Tex Creek Ready Mix on November 16th, and we are recommending or requesting your authorization to enter into the agreement with BCS Leasing and Tex Creek Ready Mix. Yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Cynthia. Questions or comments by council members?
Just clarify, the voluntary annex is the sliver that's in the Temple ETJ.
That is correct.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was a different segment of it, but.
No, it's the, you can see it here, the red line. If you can see that red line, that is all Temple ETJ right here. So that's what we're asking them to voluntarily annex into the Belton city limits.
Does the TERS extend here? Or not? I could not remember if we overlaid the TERS in this area.
I don't know. The
Okay. It's not material. The reason I was asking is being able to incentivize a business that's coming in that may not be 100% in the city limits really makes the argument pretty solid and so I think that using those funds to help with that. And so again, I think Temple with this rails to trails and with the development that's going to happen on the other side of the river, I think it's great. It kind of elevates it, like you said. It has that heavy industrial, but it also elevates. So I think it's a great program, and so I would make a motion that we authorize the BEDC to enter into the development agreement with BCS Leasing and Tex Creek Ready Mix.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Cynthia, for y'all's work on this. I mean, this really covers more than get some heavy industry in a very limited area, very limited amount of space that we have for heavy industry. The rails to trails relocation will allow an existing industry to expand, which is great as well, and certainly some more property that would be worth a lot more on the tax rolls than it currently is right now. That property's been sitting there for a long time. It seems it's great to see it being developed. At this time, we will adjourn the city council meeting, and we will reconvene in just a moment into executive session.